Today, I will discuss a book titled The Fund by Rob Copeland. Just hearing the name might leave you puzzled. However, its subtitle encapsulates the entire content of the book. Ray Dalio, Bridgewater Associates, and the Unraveling of a Wall Street Legend. Essentially, this is a book aiming to knock Dalio off his pedestal. Stories of such falls are not uncommon. For instance, the former CEO of Nissan Renault, Ghosn, faced similar challenges, and recently Bob Iger, reappointed as Disney's CEO, is facing challenges too. Dalio himself is now facing a crisis. Many regard Dalio as an investment guru, known especially for his analysis of the global economy and his predictions about the 2008 financial crisis, which brought him fame. In his book, Principles, he outlined principles for life, work, and investing that many consider sacred. These principles are also praised within his own company, Bridgewater Associates. For example, he promoted a culture of constant internal scoring and extreme transparency within the company, which he believed was a main driver for mutual motivation and continuous improvement among employees. Dalio often said within Bridgewater, "If you're so smart, why aren't you a billionaire?" His mythos is built on two key pillars, being both intelligent and wealthy, and these influence each other. As the founder of Bridgewater, the world's largest hedge fund, and with a net worth of approximately $17 billion, Dalio created a culture of wealth generation that outsiders believe he has cracked the code of wealth. The Fund by New York Times reporter Rob Copeland, in a sense, is a book that demystifies this persona. It uses a plethora of facts to show that the narrative carefully constructed by Dalio has many exaggerations or inconsistencies. He, like many arrogant founders who are unaware of their flaws, gradually falls into his own blind spots and cannot escape the allure of fame and fortune. In our analysis today, we will first look at Bridgewater's performance and the implementation of Dalio's principles to explore another side of the Dalio myth. Then, we'll discuss how we should view figures like Dalio, the corporate guru. Dalio's investment philosophy. To address these issues, we need to understand Dalio's investment philosophy first. Unlike funds that utilize technology, such as quantitative funds, or those focused on specific industries, Dalio's investment style capitalizes on macro trends and forward-looking predictions about national economic development to make money. His main areas of focus are the currency and commodity markets, rather than the stock or derivatives markets. He became famous for accurately predicting the 2008 financial crisis and thus became a sought-after figure among global political and financial leaders. Dalio's ability to generate profit for Bridgewater mainly relies on having an informational advantage, known on Wall Street as an edge. There are various types of edges, such as black edge, which refers to insider information obtained from company insiders or related individuals that has not yet been made public. Of course, trading on insider information can lead to severe penalties and even criminal charges. However, Dalio's informational advantage is completely legal, albeit a very traditional Wall Street money-making method. Dalio leveraged his reputation in the investment community to forge close relationships with global political and financial leaders. These individuals, when in New York, often hope to visit Bridgewater's headquarters in Connecticut because Dalio is renowned for his macroeconomic analyses and they seek his advice. By using this strategy, Dalio and Bridgewater could both influence financial policy trends and gain access to first-hand information that is hard for outsiders to obtain. This has also helped Bridgewater attract more investors, particularly from government funds. Let's look at a few examples of how Dalio has used these relationships and first-hand information to make money. After the 2008 financial crisis, he had a close relationship with then-European Central Bank President Mario Draghi, who later became Italy's prime minister. He advised Draghi to strengthen stimulus policies and was well aware that fiscal stimulation would weaken the euro, from which Bridgewater profited by betting against the euro. Publicly, Dalio continually praised Draghi, who in turn regarded Dalio as a key advisor. Through Draghi, Dalio established close ties with European financial elites, especially the Swiss National Bank president. In 2015, when the Swiss National Bank decided to decouple the Swiss franc from the euro to strengthen Switzerland's financial policy independence, the world was shocked to see the Swiss franc fall more than 10% against the euro in one day, from which Bridgewater also profited significantly. Such government-business relationships, when managed well, can be profitable, but they can also cause headaches for Dalio if changes in official positions lead to a loss of information. For instance, because he had accurately predicted the subprime mortgage crisis, Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke held Dalio in high esteem, and the two had many interactions which helped Dalio anticipate the Fed's trends. However, when Bernanke stepped down in 2014 and was replaced by Janet Yellen as Fed chair, Dalio often complained that Yellen would not return his calls. Yellen's indifference cost Dalio his precise judgment on the direction of the US dollar, leading to frequent miscalculations and losses for Bridgewater. Another example involves Bridgewater's relationships with emerging market government financial officials. Kazakhstan, because of its oil field developments in the Caspian Sea, established a sovereign wealth fund managed by an official in his 30s with an auditing background. When he visited New York, Dalio ordered a helicopter to transport him to Bridgewater's headquarters in Connecticut, a move that greatly impressed the official. As if attending a class, Dalio shared his analysis of the global financial situation at the headquarters, leaving a lasting impression on the Kazakhstani official, more so than the traditional entertainment offered by New York hedge funds. At the end of the visit, the official proposed investing $15 million in Bridgewater. Bridgewater's response was that they did not need it because the investment threshold was $100 million, but they were willing to maintain close ties with the Kazakhstan Sovereign Fund, and Dalio was willing to share his insights on the big picture anytime for consultation. Dalio had only one condition: that such exchanges be mutual, as Bridgewater often had questions, especially regarding the construction of oil fields in the Caspian Sea, and hoped for regular advice. After establishing trust, Dalio obtained important information related to Kazakhstan's oil production, which helped form judgments about global oil price trends. The Kazakhstan Sovereign Fund later expressed its willingness to invest in Bridgewater, surpassing the $100 million threshold, and Bridgewater graciously accepted. From the above analysis, it's clear that Dalio's earnings rely heavily on forming judgments based on government-business relationships, and his ability to influence financial policies also helps Bridgewater make money. However, this way of making money faces various challenges in the new era. On one hand, Bridgewater's informational advantage is being caught up by other funds using various technologies and big data analysis methods. On the other hand, the first-hand information that Dalio forms from government-business relationships can easily be lost due to changes in official positions, not to mention that Bridgewater's management and technology are still stuck in the pre-internet era. Clearly, Bridgewater is no longer the darling of Wall Street, whether measured by performance or Dalio's own investment strategy. The fund uses many facts to knock Dalio off his pedestal. Now let's look at another question. Is Bridgewater a model of practicing principles? As a best-selling book, Principles, appears to be a textbook on unity of knowledge and action to the outside world. Dalio emphasizes a series of important principles for life and management and advocates for the practice of these principles within Bridgewater, with complete transparency and mutual criticism among colleagues as the core, creating a kind of extreme meritocracy. He claims that such open and transparent discussions help unearth more investment ideas. From our previous explanation, it's clear that the fund has brought Dalio and Bridgewater's money-making abilities down from their pedestals. So, how well are the management principles Dalio advocates in the principles actually implemented within Bridgewater? Are they, as Dalio claims, helping to create a unique corporate culture that promotes the growth of both the company and individuals? However, the fund reveals that the actual way Bridgewater operates internally is far from the practices extolled in Principles. Principles contains many principles, among which Dalio highly values the completely transparent and internal scoring mechanism. He hopes to make Bridgewater a model of practicing principles, but the reality is quite shocking. Dalio developed a system called Principal OS, where everyone in the company can rate others, and this anonymous scoring mechanism determines everyone's evaluation. Dalio heavily marketed Principal OS externally, hoping that other companies could also promote development through continuous mutual scoring like Bridgewater. However, the reality is that almost all large companies have declined to implement the Principal system internally. This raises a question: is the completely open and transparent principle really useful? In fact, Dalio's internal evaluation system has had 3 problems from the start. First, the evaluation system claims equality for all, but some are more equal than others. In terms of weight, the evaluations of senior insiders at Bridgewater carry much more weight, while the evaluations of young, newly hired employees are relatively unimportant. This can make the evaluation mechanism likely biased and not as objective and fair as Dalio claims, being too influenced by people's emotions and personal interests. After the Me Too movement erupted, several similar sexual harassment cases were revealed within Bridgewater, and the mutual evaluation system even became an accomplice to sexual harassment. Female researchers are a minority within Bridgewater, and some have complained about being harassed by male superiors, with the mutual evaluation system becoming a heavy burden on them, forcing them to participate in company parties and often drink a lot of alcohol. If they do not cooperate, they might be transferred to other departments, which then dismiss them for purported lack of competence. More importantly, the system has a built-in mechanism where no matter how others rate Dalio, he is always the highest scorer, always the most correct, always having the power to veto others. The system is intended to allow everyone to express their opinions openly and transparently, also allowing the company's investments to benefit from collective wisdom. However, the reality is that although investment decisions are the result of collective discussions, Dalio's personal intuition still largely dominates. Young people wanting to propose new investment directions need to be unanimously decided by a management team of 3, including Dalio, with the other 2 always making decisions in line with Dalio's direction. Another problem is that a completely open and transparent mechanism is simply not possible in a strongly regulated environment. Dalio is used to recording all internal discussions and uploading them to the transparent library, where all employees can replay them. This is also a part of the company culture that Dalio deliberately shapes, allowing employees to understand how the company applies principles in internal discussions. However, in 2018, the company recruited a former Deputy Attorney General of the United States as a legal advisor, who recommended shutting down the transparent library immediately upon taking office. She argued that a large amount of unedited internal information, if involved in legal disputes, could easily become evidence required to be submitted, which would be disadvantageous to the company. In other words, under strong regulatory conditions, 360-degree transparency in reality is actually difficult to promote and can easily shoot oneself in the foot. Just imagine the secret recording devices set up by Nixon in the White House during the Watergate scandal. Precisely because of the existence of secret recordings, when investigators demanded evidence of Nixon's knowledge of the break-in at the Democratic Party headquarters, Nixon's downfall was sealed. Finally, the COVID-19 pandemic delivered the final blow to the internal evaluation system and punctured the internal belief in Dalio. Remote work brought an unprecedented level of equality, and Dalio was no longer the center of attention on stage, able to command at will. In Zoom meetings, he was just one of dozens or hundreds of participants, just one of countless small icons on the screen. If he kept talking nonstop, you could simply mute him and open another window to play a game. In summary, Principles contains many principles that only exist in an ideal society, which will inevitably be distorted and deviate in actual operation. Where there are people, there is politics. Where there are bosses, there will be bossism. Only under the banner of high transparency, such inconsistencies become even more eye-catching. Unity of knowledge and action is not easy. Do not blindly trust corporate gurus. Finally, let's look at another question. How should we view figures like Dalio, the corporate guru? Overall, The Fund is a book that demystifies corporate gurus. The book contains many cases that clearly point to one thing. People who are worshipped under the spotlight are actually living beings with emotions and desires, who may be greedy or vain. Understanding this, we should not treat what they write in books and preach everywhere as sacred, but rather, we should view them with a critical eye. The book shares 3 peculiar cases of Dalio. The first is selling the transparent scoring system, OS. Dalio is already fabulously wealthy, but like all rich people, he has his obsessions with money. For example, Dalio once had the bizarre idea that the transparent scoring system he created should be sold for money, so he planned to charge Bridgewater an annual management fee of $6 million. Considering his annual income of hundreds of millions of dollars, caring about such a small amount of money is indeed peculiar. As a result, Bridgewater's management declined, finding it strange that a mutual evaluation system developed by the boss for mandatory use by employees would actually charge the company money. The second is asymmetric equity incentives for the executive team. By 2020, Dalio was over 70 years old, well past the age for retirement. He decided to retire and sell the company to insiders. This group had already entered the core circle, to whom Dalio had previously given phantom stock with dividend rights. Half of Dalio's wealth, worth about $8 billion, came from Bridgewater's equity. He hoped his core subordinates would buy out his shares using their future 10 years of bonuses in installments. But the total bonuses were not enough to cover $8 billion, so he invited JP Morgan to provide loans to these core colleagues. For these subordinates, this was equivalent to betting not only on Bridgewater's development over the next 10 years, but also on their own decades of savings, just so Dalio could retire completely. The third case is not peculiar, but everyone is trapped by fame and fortune. After Principles became a bestseller, from the summer of 2017 to early 2018, Dalio almost spent all his time showcasing himself outside, enjoying his role as a best-selling author and influential businessman, promoting Principles as a guide for corporate management. As a result, He spent less and less time in the company, did not participate in many important decisions, and was not very concerned about the company's declining performance, causing dissatisfaction among internal staff. This also serves as a reminder to us all. Generally, business managers only write books and speak out after retirement, hoping to fulfill their mission of establishing a legacy. But if someone starts writing and making speeches while still in office, they are likely not focusing on their duties. Of course, Dalio's case is quite special. As an influential businessman, he still helps establish more political and business relationships, helping him make money. But his enjoyment of the spotlight is still a manifestation of his vanity. In conclusion, the world is actually just a makeshift stage. This is how many people describe their feelings after reading The Fund. This assessment is not specifically aimed at Dalio, but applies to many areas. In their own books, Under the Spotlight, they always show their most glamorous and wise sides. But in reality, every person, every company has its own unspeakable side. In this sense, The Fund brings us closer to the real world's truth. There are no perfect principles, only the embarrassment of inconsistency between knowledge and action. This is not to say that the principles in Principles are hypocritical, but it constantly reminds us that knowing is easy and doing is hard. The Fund belongs to the category of in-depth reporting, revealing the unknown side of Dalio and describing how the transparent criticism mechanism advocated in Principles actually operates within Bridgewater. The market is a mirror, and the performance of each investment institution speaks for itself. But it teaches us an important lesson. Listening to all sides makes one wise, and celebrities sometimes only show you the best side they want you to see. That's the essence of this book. You can click the description below the video to find the link to the book. Welcome to read it. You can also share this book with your friends. If you like the content of Daily Book Dive, click the subscribe button to stay updated. Your encouragement helps us continue bringing book essence to our community. Congratulations, you've finished another book.